Hello students, we are going to see chapter 10, the Comet-II now. Here we will see how Dattada is invited to the secret conference, how to change the course of Comet Datta is the scientist's hidden agenda. Dattada and the defense advisor become close friends and share a secret. Now we'll see whatever happens here. After Comet-I. By the time they finished their deliberations and Sir John dropped him at his hotel off Regent Street, it was 1 a.m. There was hardly any crowd on the street, but when James looked up from his window, a star-studded night sky greeted him. Somewhere amongst these stars was Comet Datta, heading for a collision with the Earth. It was hard to believe the calamity of the future on such a peaceful night. For a moment, James wondered if he had done his sums right. Now, the person you remember who had written that article about the collision between the Earth and Comet Datta. He is now wishing, or he is wondering if all his calculations are correct or not, because whatever is going to happen would have devastating results. Whatever doubt James may have had about Sir John's efficiency were quickly dispelled when he reported for the conference and found that all the experts listed by him were there. So now we come to know that this secret conference is going to take place, and before this James was not very sure about Sir John's efficiency, his ability. But now when he saw that this meeting is going to take place, this conference is going to take place, he understood what capabilities Sir John had. Astronomers, computer scientists, nuclear physicists, space technologists, biologists, all were there. And as Sir John's special invitee was present, the man who had started it all, Manoj Datta. So now this man from India, Manoj Datta was also invited in that secret conference. The conference lasted 1 week and went on under total cover of secrecy. First, the experts checked and rechecked James Fawcett's calculations with the latest observations of Comet Datta. So this conference was all about this collision between Comet Datta and Earth, and all of them, all the scientists, physicists, biologists, whoever were there, all of them recalculated the sums, everything they gone through all over them again, and they checked whether all the calculations were right. He was right. There was no escape from the direct hit predicted by him. So now they came to know that there is no way they can avoid this. Now they have to take some measures to prevent this from happening. There was no escape from the direct hit predicted by him. There was a small chance that the comet may just graze the atmosphere of the Earth and not collide. In that case, the loss of life and property would not be total, but this slight respite was hardly reassuring enough for taking no action. So there was a possibility. After all these calculations, they understood that there was a very faint possibility, very weak possibility, that maybe this Comet Datta would not collide with the Earth, but it will only, destroy the atmosphere of Earth. In that condition also, maybe the loss of life would not be that great. It not be total, but that is also not, it was not reassuring enough. It was not enough that people would just sit silently and watch it happen. They had to take some measures, they had to do something for it. Having decided that some action was needed, what form should it take? The experts dismissed defensive measures like living in underground bunkers. It was simply not a practical proposition. So there was, like, they could think of living inside and, like, not on the surface but in the underground bunkers, but it was not practical. Earth is so huge and there are so many people, so many living beings are there on the surface of Earth, and to take them in the underground bunkers, it is not a practical proposition. So the only course was to take offensive action. Comet-Datta could be marginally deflected from its path by giving it a push. So now there was only one way to avoid it, and that was to, offensive action. We will not be defensive now. We will not defend the earth, but we will offend. And how will we do that? They will do something to push the Comet-Datta, and they will try to divert its path, deflect from its path. The experts calculated that the bulk of destructive nuclear power available on Earth would be needed to achieve the mammoth task. Now, mammoth task. Mammoth task means huge, very huge task. Mammoth are, like, they were species of like elephants. They had huge teeth. They were very huge in size. So mammoth task means, like, very huge. A gigantic nuclear explosion, suitably placed, suitably directed, and suitably timed could do the trick. So what things were needed? A gigantic also means very big, great, huge. So gigantic nuclear explosion, suitably placed, suitably directed, suitably timed. Everything should be perfect. Then only this could happen. This could be done by placing the nuclear payload in a spaceship, sending it to intercept the approaching comet, and detonating it by remote control. Success or failure, secrecy must be preserved. So whatever may happen, whatever they have to do, they will do. But secrecy was on the top of the priority list. Finally, a timetable was drawn up for the operation, which was code-named Project Light Brigade. The important dates in it were: October 10, dispatch the spacecraft with the payload unless by then the comet is already destroyed by natural causes or has changed its path due to unforeseen reasons. November 15, rendezvous, we call it something here, it's pronounced as rendezvous. See the spelling, rendezvous, but it is pronounced as rendezvous, meeting place. So October 10, dispatch the spacecraft with the payload unless by then the comet is already destroyed by natural causes or has changed its path due to unforeseen reason. So October 10 was the date on which the spacecraft with all the payload will be dispatched. Unless by then the comet is already destroyed by natural causes or distracted from its path or changed its path due to some unforeseen reasons. November 15, rendezvous with the comet and detonation of the payload. So on November 15, the comet and this spacecraft will meet and detonation will be done. If the experiment failed, this was the day 15 December. If the experiment failed, this was the day the comet would hit the earth. If it succeeded, this was the day the comet would pass by at a near but safe distance. So the last date was December 15, on which either this experiment would be successful and the earth would be saved from this collision, and this comet would just pass by at a near but safe distance. But if it was not successful, then December 15 would be the last day of this planet. The comet would hit the earth. The success of the experiment depended on how massive the comet was. Nobody could estimate. Everybody hoped that it was not very massive. So it depended on how massive the comet was, how huge the size, the mass of that comet. Everything depended on that, and no one could assume about this. So everyone was just hoping everything to be fine. Do you think we will succeed? Dattada asked Sir John Macpherson for his opinion. During the week, the two had developed considerable affinity for each other. So now, Dattada and Sir John Macpherson, they are talking. They have become good friends and they talk to each other frequently. Now you can see the meanings here. Intercept, stop or block, detonating, setting it off, making it explode, payload, equipment, rendezvous, meeting place, everything is given here. Mr. Datta, I will give you an honest answer. I am not buying any Christmas present till December 15. So Sir John Macpherson was also not very sure, and he told Mr. Dattada that he is not buying any present for Christmas. He is not going to do anything for Christmas until they get this good news that the earth is saved, and the date was December 15. Dattada toured the British Isles for 2 weeks after the conference, and he had a pleasant time visiting observatories and exchanging views with amateur as well as professional astronomers. On his return, he was greeted by the inevitable vast crowd of friends, social leaders, students, and the usual hangers-on, loaded with garlands and bombarded by questions from the press. He somehow made his way to the waiting car. Now, after 2 weeks, he toured to the British Isles, then for 2 weeks after the conference, and then he visited observatories and he exchanged his views with astronomers. So he returned now. He returned from England, and was welcomed by a huge crowd of people, which of course he did not like. Now, arriving home, he found another crowd gathered under a pandal. He glanced questioningly at Indrani Devi, his wife. Surely she knew how he hated crowds. Indrani, obviously uneasy, offered the explanation. I have arranged a yajna and call priests to bless you. This is written here, yajna, that is yajna. So when he returned home at the airport, first of all he was welcomed by a huge crowd, and then at home also another crowd was there, and his wife told him that they are going to have some yajna there, call priests to bless you. But why? Just because I left the shores of India? It is no longer taboo. And in any case, my views on these meaningless rituals. So Dattada, because he was an astronomer, so all these puja things, all those worshipping, yajna, everything he considered to be superstitions. So he did not like all those things, but his wife she had faith in all these things, so she performed everything. Now, Indrani Devi looked at Sibaji Babu, the younger brother of her husband. Sibaji Babu coughed and explained, "We have all been very disturbed since we discovered the comet. Guruji recommended a Shanti Yagya to pacify the evil spirit behind the comet. We are all waiting for you to perform the Yagya." So this Yagya was going to take place in their house, and because the family members thought that this comet would have some bad effect on the Tada and on the earth also, so they wanted a Shanti Yagya and they were going to have this. "May I know what specific advantage there is in this ceremony?" The Tada was outwardly calm. However, he looked calm, but he was not very happy with all these things. "The comet you have discovered will not cause any ill effects on the earth." Now, the reason that they were having this puja, this yagya, because they thought that this comet is going to have bad effects on our earth. At this remark, the Tada blew up. He got very angry and then he started speaking. "Don't you know that this is all superstition? It could be condoned in the olden times when man did not know what comets were. Not so in modern times. Comets are known for what they are. Their movements are forecast precisely by mathematical calculations, and it is clearly established by statistical studies that their visits have no correlations with disasters on the earth. All this is of course futile on my part to explain. You and the likes of you never read even the elementary books on science." Now, the Tada became very angry and he started speaking that all these things were considered to be like this. Bad effects, ill effects, omen, shakun, apshakun, all those things in olden times. But now in modern times, we know them scientifically. We have calculations, we have statistical calculations, we have studies, we have mathematical calculations, everything. And with the help of all these scientific methods, we can forecast about them. And in this modern time also, you people think all these things as superstitions, and you people are doing all this. But I don't find any meaning in all these things, so I'm not going to perform any yagya, any puja. Sibaji Babu gently interjected, "But our wise forefathers recommended such yagyas." So he said, Sibaji Babu, his younger brother, the Tada's younger brother, said that our wise forefathers, like the people who have lived on this earth before us, Purvaj and all. So all those have recommended yagya, so we should do this. Since his return from London, the Tada was in regular correspondence with Sir John Macpherson. Their friendship had grown out of their appreciation of each other's virtues. Both of them appreciated each other, and so this friendship had grown stronger. It had become strong. Sir John admired the Tada's scientific outlook, while the latter admired the former's discipline and efficiency. Their correspondence never mentioned the project Light Brigade. Light Brigade was that project about this comet, Datta. Although once in a while Sir John would hint at its progress in a subtle manner that the Tada would understand. So both of them exchanged thoughts through letters also, and they talked often, and they would mention about that Light Brigade project only a few times, and only to give a hint about the progress in that area. Meanwhile, Comet Datta was following its predicted path. In due course, it developed its tail. It circled round the sun without breaking apart, nor did it evaporate. The scientists on Project Light Brigade therefore knew that the threat of collision was now very much real. Now, meanwhile, Comet-Datta was following its predicted path. So the path which the scientists had predicted, Comet-Datta was following the same path, and it developed its tail, it circled around the sun, and it did not evaporate, it did not destroy. It was coming through the same path. So this collision was now, for sure, it was going to happen. In the middle of October, Datta got a letter from Sir John. In the midst of descriptions of the meeting of the Royal Astronomical Society, the unreasonably warm weather, the opening matches of the football season, and a recent by-election, Datta spotted the sentence he was eagerly looking for. The charge of the Light Brigade has begun. Let us hope for the best. So the spacecraft had been launched on time. Now, this thing was happening, and the spacecraft was launched on time on, I think, October 10. Then this news was given to the Tada by Sir John Macpherson. But will it achieve the rendezvous in time and at the right place? Like they were thinking of the meeting of these two things, the spacecraft and the comet. Will the remote control detonation work? What if the gigantic nuclear pile fails to fire? So many doubts, so many things were there, they all were thinking about. Datta could not share his anxieties with anyone around him. He had to participate in and outwardly enjoy the puja ceremonies, the Diwali celebration and other festivals. His sole daytime relaxation was in the company of Khoka, his 8-year-old grandson, and of course at night looking through Divya. So Datta was, he could not share his anxieties. He was always thinking about that Light Brigade project. His concentration, he always thought of that thing. But he was so restless from within. But he could not share his anxiety, his restlessness with any other person in the house. He had to participate in and outwardly. He had to show that he is okay. And he had to celebrate Diwali. He had to do everything, the puja and all the festivals he had to participate in. His sole daytime relaxation was in the company of Khoka, his 8-year-old grandson, and of course at night looking through Divya. So now he spent time with his grandson, and he spent his nights looking through Divya that we have seen in the beginning of Comet-I. He was regularly monitoring the comet, now clearly visible even to the naked eye. Now Comet-Datta was visible through the naked eye too. On November 18, a special messenger on a scooter from the British Council brought in an urgent telex message for him. The telex operator in Calcutta had wondered what was so special about it to make it so urgent. But on reading it, Datta lost all his lethargy and rushed to his favorite Rasgulla shop. The message read, I am confident now of buying my Christmas presents on December 15, John Macpherson. So finally he got the news of the success of that experiment. Now the earth was saved. And when he read this news, he just rushed towards his favorite Rasgulla shop. I am confident now of buying my Christmas presents on December 15, John Macpherson. On December 15, Comet-Datta was closest to the Earth at a distance of 80,000 kilometers. Millions saw it and admired it. Only a handful knew how close they had come to total annihilation. Now, they had just escaped a total destruction because of those scientists and their experiment. Many people, like thousands of people, millions of us saw that comet with our naked eyes. When the comet had gone far away and was seen no more, Dattada felt it safe to make the following comment to his wife. Now that the comet came and went, are you satisfied that no major disaster took place that can be attributed to it? Now, Dattada was talking to his wife that now are you happy that nothing happened? And the comet came and it went. I agree that there has been no major disaster, but there could have been some. Do you know how they were averted? Indrani Devi said with quiet confidence. Now, Indrani Devi, his wife, Dattada's wife, says that there must have been some disasters, but do you know why it was like no disasters were there? Why we did not have to face any bad thing? Now, Dattada thought how she knows all those things, which he did not ever tell her. Dattada looked at her. Did she know? How could she? He had never mentioned Project Light Brigade to her. He probed cautiously. I don't understand what you mean. It is very simple. There were no disasters because of the yajna at our house. Now, wife of Tada, Indrani Devi, she thinks that because of that peace, Shanti yajna, all this was prevented. Disaster was prevented. But I never performed the yajna. Don't you remember? I refused to have anything to do with it. So now he says, Dattada, that he did not perform the puja, the yajna. Then how could she say that because of that yajna, this disaster was prevented? Of course I do, but we found a way out. At least Guruji did. He said that if you were unwilling to perform the yajna, it would be all right if a descendant of yours did it. So what they did, they brought the child Khoka for the puja, and he did all those like all the things in the yajna. So we got Khoka to deputize for you, and it has worked. Isn't Guruji clever? Indrani's voice had a ring of triumph. Now, Indrani Devi thought that maybe her husband was not willing to do the puja, but at least his grandson did this, descendant of yours did it. So that's why that yajna had its effect and any disaster could not take place. Dattada formed a mental picture of Khoka performing the yajna, uttering mantras dictated to him which he did not understand. Now Dattada, being a scientist, he imagined how a child performed the yajna. He just repeated the mantras he was dictated by the Panditji or the Pujari, whoever was there, the Guruji. And he did not even understand the mantras, but he performed the yajna. And Indrani Devi thinks that because of that, all this has prevented. Pouring ghee at specified intervals into the fire, offering flowers, and then the picture changed to an assembly of scientists at the conference analyzing the problem, devising solutions, and executing them rationally and efficiently. So he is now comparing these two pictures. One in which a child is repeating the mantras told to him by Guruji, which the meaning of the mantras he did not even understand. On the other hand, he has the picture of an assembly where so many scientists, intellectuals are there who are trying to study the problem, then find a solution, then execution of that solution, everything they are doing rationally and efficiently. It seemed hard to believe that both pictures were different aspects of contemporary human society. So it was very difficult to understand and difficult to believe that these two pictures were of same era, contemporary human society. The Tada was aware of the gulf that separates the rich from the poor, the educated from the illiterate, the privileged from the unprivileged. But this gap between the rational and the superstitious seemed to him far wider, far more sinister. Will human society ever succeed in eliminating it? The Tada did not know the answer. So, the Tada, being a scientist, being an astronomer, he thinks that the gap between poor and rich, educated and uneducated, privileged and unprivileged, is vast. But more vast is the gap between superstitious people and rational people. And this gap, this difference is even more disastrous. And no one knows when this is going to end. So now this chapter is over.